Okay, the purpose of this video is to show you an activity, a simple activity that students might do to help them to develop conceptual understanding and procedural fluency in how to build fractions using a concrete manipulative. And so this activity is called rolling fraction models, and it has three objects inside of the bag. One object is a set of the Cuisinaire rods. Another object is this 10-sided die within a 10-sided die, and the last object is this set of instructions. So I'm going to use these to build. I'm going to follow the instructions, and I'm going to do what it says. So each student works alone. You can choose to have students work in pairs if you feel like that's better. Sometimes it depends on the developmental stage. Okay, roll the double die. So I'm rolling it, and I notice that this has a 9 over a 9. I'm going to roll it again because that one's too simple. Now you can have, okay, this one says 8 over 5. So it says write the fraction using the outer number as the numerator and the inner number as the denominator. So the fraction to model is 8 over 5. Notice that I'm using the outer die for the numerator and the inner die for the denominator, and that one came up to be 8 over 5. Okay, once you've used the die for that, now it's time to build the model. And so it says write the fraction using the outer number as the numerator and the inner number as the denominator. That's what I just did. Use the Cuisinaire rods to build a fraction that you rolled, and then it gives some reminders. Define the whole. Okay, so if I'm going to define the whole, then what I'm going to want to do is to take something, say this block for example, or I could use this block. Let me use the orange block just for the heck of it. And I'm going to say the orange block is equal to 1 whole. So the first thing I have to do is define the whole. Now you might be asking yourself, all right, how did I choose the orange block, or why did I choose the orange block? And the reason that I chose the orange block is because I happen to know that 5 red blocks are equivalent to an orange block. And why am I interested in 5? Because I know that the denominator is 5, and so that means that I want to define a unit fraction, and in this case my unit fraction is 1/5 because 5 equal parts make 1 whole. Now, just a reminder, this activity is only going to be done once you have already done a direct instruction with your students in class, and possibly several small group instructions. And this is designed for them to develop fluency and conceptual understanding. So choosing which blocks to use is a really big conceptual step, because I have to know that to get fifths I have to have 5 equal parts in a whole. And to get 5 equal parts in a whole, I have to pick one that has 5 other smaller blocks that equal to it. That's a really important idea. Once I've done that, however, now things become maybe a little bit easier, because now I can take, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of these. And now what I have is, okay, I have, this is 1/5, 1/5, 1/5, 1/5, 1/5, and so on. And if I add these all up, this is equal to 8/5. Now, notice that the steps that this has told me to take in the directions. Define the whole. That's what I did right here. This is defining the whole, step 1. Then step 2 is define a unit fraction. A unit fraction is a fraction that has 1 as the numerator and some other number as the denominator. In this case, 5. So this is defining a unit fifth, or a unit fraction with a value of 1/5. And why did I do that? Because I want to build 8/5 using 8 of those unit fractions. All right. Now, write a justification sentence to explain your reasoning for why your model matches the fraction you rolled. Okay, so my justification statement is, this is 8/5 because 8 blocks with a value of 1/5 add up to 8/5. Okay, this amount of work for a beginning student, when a student is first starting to learn this concept, this amount of work is going to take them maybe 10 or 15 minutes if they're proficient, learners, maybe 15 to 20 minutes if they're struggling, and even 20 to 30 minutes if they really need a lot of support. And so at the beginning, just doing what I just did is going to take perhaps an entire session from your station rotation. But as students get better at it, then they should be able to do this in less than 5 minutes. And so they should be able to get 2 or 3, maybe even 4 builds into a station rotation. But don't expect them to do that to begin with. All right. Let me go over kind of the pedagogical thinking here. First of all, there's a set of instructions to guide the students. Second of all, this activity is built on the instruction that you've already done. So certainly you wouldn't give this activity to students without the instruction that we've talked about previously. Second of all, the next item is you are asking students to write specific things. And those specific things, such as write a fraction using the outer number as the numerator and the inner number as the denominator. That's helping your English learning students to develop the academic language necessary to understand mathematics. And not just English learning students, all students need to develop that. The next thing that I really want to focus on here is that we are establishing points of reference for students and teaching them that for you to build a complex understanding, you have to build that on foundational understandings. First establishing a whole, then establishing a unit fraction, and then establishing how you would build a fraction, in this case a improper fraction, using unit fractions. And then most important for almost all students, I would say for all students, the most important part is being able to write this sentence. And the reason that's the most important is because now you're using English to establish the concepts in your brain that you've learned mathematically. And so we're using mathematical academic language with a structured activity to help students develop a fluency in how they talk about fractions. But talking about them is not the main goal. Learning about them is. But I would say that you can't learn about them without talking about them. And so we built a structure where students are forced or enabled, or how I should say scaffolded, to build those English understandings. All right. Thank you for listening.